Hey everybody, welcome back to my studio and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Well, as I've said many times in these videos, a lot of the information that I give out in these videos come directly from my clients who come in here to ask me questions. And this video is no different. A little bit is added about, well, some of the things I've been dealing with lately, but this has come directly from some questions that I've been asked lately by a few different people. So let's get into it. Basically, the question comes down to this. Should I buy the current generation of camera out there, or should I wait for the newer generation to come out there? And this was directly brought to me by a customer who's looking at upgrading one of their cameras, and they're looking at going to a mirrorless camera, and the camera that they're looking at has been out for a few years. And there's rumors that a new version of the camera is coming out within the next several months. And they want to know, should they actually wait for this new version of the camera to come out, or should they buy the current version of camera? And if you've listened to any of my videos, you know that I've been slowly thinking about going to mirrorless, still haven't made the jump, but I was actually considering going with the R5. And rumor mill has it that they are coming out with the R5 Mark II within a couple months. So when this customer came in to ask me, and I sat down, I did a whole spiel to them about what I would do, it got me thinking, what am I going to do? And it got me thinking about some of the other questions that I've had asked to me over the last month, 2 months, 3 months. So let's get into it. If you're looking at upgrading a camera, if you're looking at finally taking the leap of buying a new body or even a new lens, should you buy the current version that's been out for a year or 2 years or 3 years? Or should you wait and buy the more advanced version that's coming out? Well, here are my thoughts on it. First of all, from the price standpoint, understand that if they are coming out with a newer version, the price on the current version is going to be going down. Now, how much it goes down, that's anybody's guess. Take the R5, for example. When it came out, it was at such and such a price. And I'm not going to get into the price, it's irrelevant. Right now, it is several $100s off of that price. I expect it's probably going to go around Christmas time down to possibly $1,000 off of that launch price. If they come out with a new R5, the R5 Mark II, I expect it's going to go back up to that full price where the R5 was when it came out. So, from a price standpoint, you're going to save yourself a little bit of money by buying the current generation or even an outdated generation. Now, I don't recommend going out and buying outdated equipment, but there are some times when it is well worth it. And it is like, you're not going to notice the difference, honestly. Take, for example, lenses. There are some amazing lenses out there that have been used for years that are really popular, that the version 1, the version 2, or even the version 3 are knockout lenses. They're amazing lenses. Are there differences? Yes. Is the quality better on the later lenses? In most cases, yes. But to buy the version 1 over the version 2, you can save yourself a ton of money and get a really good lens. Likewise with camera bodies. Same thing in that. You may be going out and buying a 5D Mark IV. I've got them. I love them. I've thought of buying a few more before they discontinue them. They're a great camera. They do a lot of photography better or as good as what the mirrorless cameras will do for years to come. Now, the mirrorless cameras have advantages. I'm not saying they don't. The eye tracking, the face tracking, the bird tracking, this track, this, that. There's advantages. But if you don't need those advantages, then why not buy something that's lesser money? It makes sense. An example, and this was the funniest thing. This was years ago. I worked for the local newspaper. One of my assignments one Saturday was to go over and take some pictures of a very famous photographer that was giving a speech at our university to a local camera club and other people that were in attendance. I got there. I was really interested in hearing this person's talk. The person was up on stage. The place was packed out. Everybody was listening in awe. Then they got to the question segment of it. And they took questions from the audience, and people would stand up and go, so what do you think of XYZ? What do you think of ABC? What do you think of? And the guy doing the speech was amazing. Everything he said was, I was just, well, yeah. And then I knew the question was going to come up, and sure enough, it came up. Somebody says, which camera do you like? Now, this was at the time that digital photography was just starting. I think Kodak had their $47,000 digital camera, which was like a 1 megapixel. And there's a few other smaller digital cameras out there, but digital cameras weren't big. The big thing at the time, and the really big thing that everybody was just oohing and awing over, was autofocus lenses. And everybody was like, oh, you must have, oh, the manufacturers must give you this. And the question came out to this photographer was, which camera do you recommend? And he was sitting in a chair on stage, and big smile came over his face, and he had a bag sitting next to him, and he turned, and he rummaged through the bag, and he pulled out this old Minolta camera. I knew it well. I had one. He pulls it out. He goes, this is the camera I use. And you could have heard the gasps through the audience, louder than anything in that building at the time, as people were going, what? The air pressure in there dropped because people were inhaling, and it was just, And he says, and here's why I use this camera. And here was his story. He says, I have a pile of lenses that fit this camera. He says, I probably have 100 lenses that fit this make and model of camera. Their lenses are absolutely amazing from quality standpoint, from everything standpoint. They're just amazing lenses. He says, I've used this camera for years. And he says, it works perfect for what I do. And he says, add to the fact that I can buy a camera body for under $100. He says, so I will go to a big city like Toronto or Vancouver or Calgary or New York or wherever I am, and I'll go to a camera store or I'll go to a secondhand store and I'll see these bodies sitting there, and I will buy 5 or 10 of these bodies. And he says, I take the bodies home and I can load them with all different types of film. And he says, if I drop one and break it, not a big deal. He says, I've used them for stuff that you're not supposed to use a camera for. He says, but I got the shot and it just worked perfectly. And he says, I wasn't worried about ruining an expensive camera. He says, plus with all my lenses and everything, why would I change? And I knew what the next question was going to be. And sure enough, one of the next questions was, but what about autofocus? And he sat there, and this guy, he knew his answers. He wasn't making it up. He smiled as the person said it. He says, I'm a landscape photographer. He says, do you really think autofocus is going to make my pictures any different from the autofocus perspective of what changes in a landscape photo? Once I focus, I can shoot for a month and I don't need autofocus. Why would I buy autofocus when I don't need it? And this comes with a lot of people when they're looking at upgrading their equipment. What do you truly need? Had a person in the other day, I'm selling all my gear and I'm buying this system and I'm buying all new lenses and I'm buying this. I said, that's great. And I said, so what's it going to do for you? And they said, well, it's got face tracking and it's got this tracking and it's got this tracking. I says, you do real estate photography. You don't need face tracking. You don't need this. I said, why are you buying it? Well, it's got all the newest. And so you don't always need the newest. You don't always need the top of the line. You don't always need this, that, the other thing. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying don't, but beware. I was doing a one-on-one the other day for a young lady. She's 17 years old, just getting into photography. She asked me, what camera would you recommend? I said, what I don't recommend you buying is any of the DSLRs. And this hurt me to say it. I said, I recommend that you go with a mirrorless system. She said, well, why? I said, because I don't want to see you buying all your lenses, building up your lenses on a camera system that's not going to be viable in the future. But at the same time, if there was somebody that came to me today and said, I have all these lenses, do I buy an R5 or do I buy a 5D Mark IV? I'd say buy the 5D Mark IV. If somebody came to me today and says, do I buy the R5 of today or do I wait for the new R5 that's coming out in 6 months or 8 months or whatever it is? I'd say, do you need the camera today? Well, yeah. Then buy the one today. Save yourself the $1,000 or whatever it is. Get it now. Start using it. But if somebody came to me and says, look, next summer I want to go on vacation. Next summer I'm going to Africa, or next summer I'm going to Alaska. Should I buy the R5 today, or should I wait for the new version? I'd say wait for the new version. See what comes out. See what the advantages are. I said they're not going to get rid of the original R5 tomorrow. They're probably going to have them left for a few months after they announce the new R5 coming out. So make a decision at that point. Then go out and spend your money. Same with lenses. You don't need the newest 15th version of that lens. If the first 14 were amazing, buy one of the ones that's lesser priced. Get it and use it. But, and here's a big but, make sure that you know what you're buying. A perfect example to this is, I had a student a little while ago, this is probably 5 years ago, 6 years ago, that came in here and said that she wanted to buy the 70 to 300 lens. And I said, well, be careful. I said, the version 1 of this lens is horrible. Do not buy it. I said, they have the version 3 out now. I said, it's really good. I said, the version 2, okay, but don't buy the version 1. Well, guess what? They went out and bought the version 1. Then they came in here and says, it's not very sharp. I says, I told you not to buy it. So if you are buying the current version of something or even a past version, make sure that it works and that there isn't a problem with it. Make sure that it is going to do what you want it to do. Make sure it has the features and functions and everything that you need. Then go out and buy it. Don't waste your money on the newest stuff if you don't need to, but don't waste your money on the old stuff if it's not going to do what you want it to do. So until next time, get out there, get the gear that you need that works for you, and take some amazing pictures. And I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye now.